What's up, guys? We're going to be creating a simple Angular app today. It's for beginner purposes, and it's a two-card structure Angular app. One for input, one for output, and then an image to the right, and just like a little BMI chart image. So we're going to use a row and column structure. So most Angular apps use that anyways, so that's good practice. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let me minimize this down so you can see it while we build it. So the code is in the description. If you want to follow along and download it from GitHub, you can, or if you just have your own empty project, you can also code while I code. So let's get into it. And so the first thing we need to do is install Bootstrap. And if you want to go to your terminal, you can actually just do npm install Bootstrap. And then you want to open up your angular.json file. We're going to need to paste two things in here. So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll find styles and scripts. And this is where we're going to paste that. So in scripts, you just want to paste this, and if you want to pause the video and type that out, you can, or just download the project. And in styles, it's not the exact same line, but it's very similar. Make sure to put the comma, and that's how Angular knows when it builds. It's going to use Bootstrap, and that's how we're going to use the card structure, row and column as well. So you can go ahead and get rid of that. The next thing you want to do is open up your tsconfig.json. And paste this at line 9, right below where your strict is. What this does, it just makes it where you don't have to initialize your variables in the Typescript files, and because that can get very annoying. And you just want to set it to false and make sure you do it after strict. You need to go ahead and close that as well. So let's go ahead and get started coding this. We do want to draw out the structure first, and then we can add the inputs and outputs at the end. It kind of makes it easier for the whole video, and it's good practice. So we're going to wrap everything in a container fluid. And like I said, we're doing row and column structure. We're going to have two rows. Class equals row. And inside each row, we're going to have a div, class, oops, I can't even type, column-6. And inside the column, we're going to have the cards. So we're going to do card. And then inside the card, this is the last class, you're going to have a card-body. You go there, and you can actually copy this and do it twice. There we go, because this is going to be the input, and this is going to be the output. And if you want to, you can save it and watch it run. So you can see the two cards beside each other, and we'll do everything first and then make it look pretty at the end. So let's go ahead and build out the first one. And before we start, after the first column 6 of the first row, we're actually going to do another column 6. And this is going to be for the image we're going to add. So inside the card body, well, let's initialize the header first. So right above the card body, we're going to go class, and we're going to go card-header. And we can say BMI Calculator. Alright, you can see it pop up. And inside the body, this is where all our inputs are going to be. So let's give a small little subtle hint here. We can do a card-subtitle, and we can do text-muted. And this kind of makes it faded, is what that text-muted class does. And we say enter your information. Alright, that looks good. So we're going to wrap our inputs in divs, and I'll explain why in a minute. So this will be all our inputs, and for each input, we're going to wrap it in a div as well. So I'll wrap all the inputs in div just for in the end. If you want to make your own classes and change colors, you can do that freely without adding anything and messing up any structure. And then for each input, we're going to also wrap in a div just for if things get complicated and you have complex inputs, then you can also create your own classes as well. So the first input we're going to have is going to be the name. So for each input, we're going to have a label. And the class on this is going to be fw-bold. It just makes it bold. It's going to be name. And the input is going to be, input class form-control. This is a Bootstrap class for all inputs. and we can say type equals text. All right, and then the last thing you want to do is say ng model, and you're going to want to do the parentheses and brackets, and this just references the Typescript file that we're going to use. And so you're just going to type in name, and this little arrow is going to pop up, and you can actually import it. So if you hover your mouse over it, you can hit imports form module, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can actually open up app.module.ts, and in the import, you're just going to import this, and this will get rid of that error. So in the Typescript file, we're going to have name string. Now I already set it up because I forgot to delete it before the video, but you're going to want to do name and then string. And we're also going to have a constructor, and we're also going to have ng on init. Now what this does is basically when this app loads, this gets operated first. Well, the constructor does, and then the ng on it does. So if we were to reload the page, this would just keep on happening. At the top here, you're going to want to do implements on init, and then that's when you'll be able to do this function. That just requires nothing, no imports. All you got to do is write this and then copy those. So let's go back to the HTML and continue our stuff. So you can see we have our first input with name, and then our second input is going to be weight. So I like to copy and paste, so we can copy the first input and just rename the stuff. Let anybody tell you that copy and paste is not good. Weight, and then we're going to do one more, because to calculate BMI, you got to have weight and height. So you can see that my stuff's red. That's because in our TS file, our TypeScript file, we haven't initialized or named any variables. We're going to have weight, and this is going to be a number, and we're going to have a height, and this is going to be a number. So save it. You see everything looks good, and we have a weight, height, and name. So that is awesome. And now what we need to do is we need a button. So after all the inputs, right there, we're going to implement a button, and we're also going to wrap this in a div. And this class is going to be text-center. Boom, and we're going to put the button. So we're going to say button class, and we're going to give it a btn-primary, which is just a blue in all Bootstrap classes. And just because I know, we're going to do margin bottom -2. And so it's going to have a click as well. And the click we're going to use is calc BMI, which we'll set up in a minute. And then we'll also do style, say width 200 pixels to make it look cool or pretty, I guess you could say. And this button will say calculate BMI. So it's going to throw an error because it doesn't know what calc BMI is yet. So if you just want to copy that, go to TS file and paste it, give it a function parentheses and some brackets, and save it again. This error will go away. And that's cool. So we got the BMI. And if you want to, you can actually go mt-2. And for Angular, all the Bootstrap classes, if you ever see MB, it's margin bottom, and then MT is margin top. You can see when we saved it, it kind of spaced this out a little bit. You would think margin right, margin left would be MR and ML, but they're not anymore. They are MER. I'm sorry, margin left is MS because M start, and then margin right is ME, which is M end. I don't know why they changed that, but they did. So the last thing we want to do is put the image beside the column, right? So we already had the column 6, and we just want to do an image, which is pretty simple. Image, we're going to give it a width of 500, we're going to give it a height of 500, and we're going to say src equals assets / images / BMI chart.png. Close it. That's going to have no idea what this is, but you can see the image appear. But in order to do that, we need to put it in the assets, right? So if you want to right click assets folder, and we can create a new directory called images. And then in this images, you can put your own photo in there, but I have one in my Finder that I'm going to put in there, and it's called BMI chart PNG. I'm just going to drag it, refactor, paste it in there, and boom, we're good to go. So now if you save it, you can see it pop up. So we're halfway there, right? So next thing we want to do is go ahead and create our outputs. So this is going to be the same structure, right? So let's give it a header, and we want to do that before the card body. And we can say div, we can say class card dash header, and we can say BMI Calculator output. See it pop up, we're good to go. And inside the card body, we're going to have the outputs, right? We're only going to have two outputs, which is the name and then the calculation of the BMI. So same thing, we want to wrap everything in a div. This will be all our outputs, and then we're going to have the output of the name, which is the label. Same structure, right, guys? It's going to be FW batch bold. And then we're going to close it, and we're going to say name. Then we're going to say break. Then we're going to go double brackets, or double curly braces, and you want to paste the name of the variable, which is name. So there we go, and then after that, we can say div. And this is going to be the BMI. We're actually going to make this an H4, kind of make it a little bigger. And we're going to say double curly braces, BMI. We haven't created this, but we will. And just because I know ahead of time, we're going to do a class margin top dash 2. And then we only want the BMI to show if there is a BMI, right? If you showed an undefined variable, then it would just print out undefined. So in Angular, we have this thing called an if statement, and it's ngIf, and you can actually just put the variable in there. Basically what this is going to do is going to say if the BMI is not undefined, then show the BMI. If it is undefined, then don't show it and just show the name. So that's all we need. And if we go to the Typescript file, we can actually do BMI, give it a number. Let's go ahead and fill in the calculate BMI, right? So this is actually going to be pretty simple. And you can just do this.bmi, math.round, and it's going to be this function right here, or this calculation right here. So you can pause the screen and copy that down. And we can go ahead and save the application and watch it rebuild. That looks great. It's a good start and almost an end. So let's finish this up and make it a little prettier, make it look good, you know. And we can do margin S-2 at the top, and on the card we can do margin T-3, and this is going to be basically the left margin, 2 pixels or 2 EMs. I honestly don't know how it does the calculation, but MT is the margin top -3. On the subtitle, we can do margin top -2, kind of space it out. And for each div, we're actually going to do MT-2. If you just want to do that for one, you can copy and paste it on the others. Awesome. We can actually do the same thing down here. Good to go. So here's the final application. You can see that you can do Peyton, and it prints out at the bottom. We can do weight, B33, 44, and it prints it out. Now if we get it like that and calculate it, you can see the BMI disappears because of that ngIf. So let me go through and see if I missed anything. That way y'all aren't lost when y'all see it. Once again, we know the ng model references the TypeScript variables that we defined. And we have the click, so when it clicks, it hits this function, it goes to calculate BMI, and we set the BMI. And then we have an ng if, and it says basically if this BMI is undefined, don't show anything. If it's not, then you can show anything. That is it. Everything else is kind of self-explanatory. You can find online, or you can ask in the comments. If you feel to do so, I'll answer as soon as possible. And I hope this helps some of you out. So thanks guys, and I'll see you in the next video.